Will Lindsay Clancy go to prison for killing her three children in January 2023? That is what this trial is about. It is not about whether she did it or not. We know who did it. She has already said she's done it. The defense lawyer's not arguing that she didn't do it. So, regardless of what you're seeing on social media, Lindsay Clancy is the person who killed her children. There is no question about that. The only question in this trial is whether she was of sound mind when she did it. So, should she go to prison or will she go to a mental institution? Those are the only options here. She's not going free because she did it. In January 2023, Lindsay Clancy strangled her three children with exercise bands and then attempted suicide. She took some pills, slit her wrists and her throat, jumped off a two-story building. I believe that was her house, and is now currently paralyzed from the waist down because of that fall. And so Massachusetts must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Clancy was of sound mind at the time that she committed this crime. Now, the prosecution says that Lindsay Clancy was not suffering enough of a mental break or anything to justify having killed her children. They said she did it because she was overwhelmed and she didn't want to be a mother anymore. And that is not enough reason to alleviate her of criminal responsibility for killing these children. There was a point in the trial when the prosecutors are cross-examining the defense's psychologist. And this was by far the defense's best witness. Dr. Paul Ziesel was his name. And he talked about questioning Lindsay Clancy right after the murders and in the days afterwards. And he talks about her state of mind, that she was a little bit emotionally detached and that she did remember what she had done, but she was, say, foggy on the details. That's what he says. But she was coherent. And the prosecutor says, well, she remembered what she did, right? Yeah, she remembered what she did. And at one point, Lindsay Clancy asked to call her husband. She remembers his name or his number by heart and is able to dial it. She leaves a voicemail, and the prosecution is essentially saying this woman was in her right mind and she made a conscious decision. They also argue about the fact that they also argue the point that she sent her husband on an errand in order to do this. And the implication there is, if she did it while her husband was there, he obviously would stop her. So there's a part of her that understands that her husband is not going to allow her to do this, and she's got to do it when he's gone, essentially. And I understand these arguments, absolutely. There is also a really compelling video on Court TV that you guys should watch, and it's about the officer who responded to the scene, and he testified about finding the children, and he's very emotional. And there's really no question about who killed these children, which is why you have to be careful about how much social media you're watching, because there are a lot of people out there that just don't know what they're talking about and really need to put down their phones and go pick up a book, because their critical thinking skills are pretty shot. So anyway, now the defense does have a lot of proof about Lindsay Clancy's mental status at the time of this murder, the fact that she was struggling a lot. She blames doctors for over-medicating her and misdiagnosing her. She claims that she heard voices telling her that she had no choice but to kill the children and herself. Now, my question would be, why did you feel that way? Why, even if there's a voice telling you that, why did you feel like you didn't have a choice? Why did you feel like you had to do it? And I'm not sure the defense really answers the question about why she felt like she didn't have that choice. But they do answer the question about sort of the state of her mental health. There's lots of documented history that she was having issues with mental health right after she had children, particularly after the third one. She spent some time in inpatient treatment, not a couple weeks or so before the murder. And she was also on a lot of medication at the time. And the defense's psychologist did say that he felt like she did have a psychotic break during the murder, and that he believed that she was sort of detached from reality when that happened. There were also some journal entries that came up, and in those journals, Lindsay Clancy is talking about how she is having a really hard time sleep training her child. The child is crying and she can't deal with it. They're letting the child cry for, say, an hour and a half at a time, and she's going nuts. She described it as, quote, miserable having to do the sleep training. She talked about being very disconnected from her husband, that they weren't able to be intimate during this time for a number of reasons, and she felt guilty for not breastfeeding. So there was a lot of evidence the defense presented that Lindsay Clancy wasn't of a healthy mind. The question really is was she of sound mind when she did this? Now, the defense lawyer, his name is Kevin Reddington. A lot of people have been talking about him because he is a master trial lawyer. He's very good at what he does. The prosecutors, Jennifer Sprague and Shannon Buckingham, they're from the Plymouth County District Attorney's Office. They're okay. They seem to be pretty skilled as well. But Kevin Reddington is he's very good. There's no question. After listening to all of this evidence, I have to say I'm having a hard time deciding whether Lindsay Clancy was actually of sound mind or not. I think she did know what she was doing, and she did have the capacity to make a different decision. And I think she made a conscious choice to kill her children that day and to try to take her own life. Now, we'll see what the jury thinks. They've heard all the evidence. They've seen, listened to all the witnesses, and it'll be up to them to decide whether she is guilty and will go to prison, or whether she will be found not guilty by reason of insanity and sent to a mental institution. She's not going home, though, and that's something everyone should understand, because she did do this. She committed these murders. The question is, why did she do it? And there's a lot of scary stuff going on social media right now about this case. There are a number of women supporting Lindsay Clancy. I saw a number of videos of women holding their babies and saying, "Same, Lindsay, same." And that's scary. That's scary. You should not be identifying with this woman. Obviously, depression, mental health issues are very real, but there's no real excuse for what has happened here. This was an evil thing this woman did. And the fact that some women are kind of justifying this and saying they feel the exact same, that's pretty scary, because even if she was suffering from psychosis at the time, psychosis is incredibly rare. And the odds are that most of these women on TikTok are not suffering from it, and they should not be identifying with a woman who strangled her 3 children in cold blood. That's scary, but I have to say that many of these women have been brainwashed by abortion culture, and they have no respect for life. And this includes the lives of their own children. When you are trained by the culture to believe that if that child is inconvenient, you can get rid of it, then why is it any different when the child is born? Of course, it's not going to be. If you don't respect life in the womb, you will not respect life outside of the womb. There's just no question about it. Now, ironically, if you look at Massachusetts in the last couple weeks, that state went viral for another reason. Lindsay Clancy's in Massachusetts, and that's where she's facing this trial right now. But the state of Massachusetts recently became the 10th state to remove gestational age limits on abortion. That means you can have an abortion the day before birth there. So states like Alaska, Colorado, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Vermont, and DC have no age limits for abortion. That means a full-grown, full-term baby can be aborted if you decide, I don't want this baby anymore, it's inconvenient. And I think a lot of the women that you're seeing on social media have been brainwashed, and they're just, quite frankly, very deluded in thinking that if it's not convenient for me to have this kid, why should I? And these women have a God complex, and it's pretty disgusting. It is very disgusting. Same state, and what you're seeing on social media is an indication of the spiritual health of our culture, and we are very sick. We have a very sick culture. And the women who are coming out supporting this woman are demonstrating to you exactly who they are, where they are. And I want you to picture for a second this husband coming home, finding his wife laying on the floor, because this is what happened. She jumps off the roof. She's laying on the floor, broken, and she can't move and everything. He calls the ambulance thinking, okay, this is what's happening. I need to deal with my wife. And once the paramedics get there, he asks her where are the children. She says the children are in the basement. And he goes to the basement to find his children dead, strangled to death by his own wife. The heartbreak, the agony that that man probably went through that day and is still going through trying to move past this is unimaginable. And the fact that people are on social media right now turning him as a victim, he's a victim in this case, and turning him into a guilty party is just disgusting and tragic. But it's not the first time we've seen this, right? How many people are out there demonizing Erica Kirk when her husband was shot to death in front of the entire world? And so we have a very sick, sick culture right now. People are not well. And men, you need to be careful who you have kids with, who you choose as a partner, because people are not in their right minds. And this case, Charlie Kirk's death, a lot of the things that are going on in the culture right now are revelatory. It's a way for us to sort of check the temperature of our culture, of our society, and we're not in good shape. We are not in good shape because there is nothing to empathize with in this Lindsay Clancy case. You should be disgusted by what has happened and see it as nothing other than a tragedy. Even if you fully believe that Lindsay Clancy was suffering from psychosis at the time that she murdered her children, it's still a tragedy. There's still nothing to champion or support, and definitely there's no excuse whatsoever for demonizing this father. No excuse for it. There's no evidence for it. And if you think that, you're not watching what's going on in this trial, and you need to stop talking on social media because you don't know what you're talking about. And it's all over the place. It's all over the place. I saw TMZ post something earlier, is basically, is the husband guilty? Like, did he do it? And it's clickbait, and that's what they do, and that's fine. But to me, it's really not fine because you know full well he didn't do it. Why are you stirring up all of this nonsense with these people who already are out of their minds and are already waiting to hear, some sort of conspiracy when there isn't one? Sometimes things are exactly as they seem, people. And I'm not going to say we're always told the truth about everything, because we're not. Okay. We were definitely not told the truth during COVID. Um, but that has nothing to do with this. That has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk's death. And people need to evaluate situations based on facts and evidence, not based on their emotions and their feelings. And TikTok. TikTok is not a good teacher. Stay off of TikTok. All right. So Christians, keep your conscience on this kind of stuff. You have to stay rooted and grounded, because otherwise you'll get led astray by this foolishness. And it's very easy, it looks to me, for someone to get pulled in by this tide of delusion and foolishness. So stay connected to the Lord, because it's wild out here. It really is wild out here. And I'm worried about the culture. Until next time.